It's the Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by ANZ Home Loans for financial well-beings.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Breakfast as we cover the latest in property news every morning as heard on iHeartRadio. Of course, you can find us at 6 a.m. and also heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts and Amazon. It is a Monday morning after the weekend. I trust you had a good couple of days off. June the 24th today. We are going to be this morning talking about fabricated housing and modular housing. You take your pick. They are different to traditional ways of building as they are primarily built in factories, not on site. And it was only just a couple of weeks ago that we were talking to Simon Kustenmacher. You might remember he was saying that building homes in large-scale high-tech factories is the way to be able to bring more stock online. At the moment, we are simply not hitting the massive shortfall amounts when it comes to the housing industry year on year. And let's face it, we are never probably going to be able to achieve some of these lofty targets that are set by politicians. And to build our way out of the crisis is to really think smarter and more efficiently of how time is spent and resources. So this morning we're going to have a bit of a chat on all of this with James Briggs. He's the Managing Director of JMB Modular Buildings. And a very good morning to you, James. Welcome to the Real Estate Breakfast this morning.
Good morning, everyone. It's great to be here and thanks for the invite.
So what do you think about when people say, modular and prefab homes, they're cheap, they're not really up to the standard of quality? What do you say to people that say that these days?
I say that you've lived a sheltered life and you need to get up to date. But I guess there's a stigma that's derived from transportable classrooms and alike from years ago. But the technology and the resources we have at our fingertips now from around the world has definitely changed that.
Yeah, and we have this term of granny flat, which is in 2024, I think is a little bit outdated. And if you look across the Tasman, what they've just announced last week in New Zealand is having these 60 square metre homes, no resource consent. Yes, they have to be built to code, but this speeds up the process that we're talking about this morning. Here in Australia, more and more people are finding themselves in a homeless situation. The same in New Zealand, where the government there is having to put people into motels, holiday parks, you name it, because the local government isn't keeping up with the housing demand. So in terms of the 60 square metres in New Zealand, I know you're familiar with the Melbourne and the Sydney requirements.
Yeah, so I'm a registered practitioner in Victoria and New South Wales and recently got South Australia and Tasmania. Off the top of my head, most of Victoria and New South Wales, under 60 square metres or 60 square metres maximum, you can do a second dwelling exempt from planning permit. So a lot of people hear, you don't need a permit. It's just planning that you don't need. You still need a building permit, which is all the National Construction Code requirements and energy ratings and glazing and so forth, but no planning permit, which is a lot of red tape that's gone and is opening up a lot of opportunities for second dwellings and unlocking a lot of land.
Now, when did that come into effect and what did you see directly as a result of, as you say, inquiries?
So I'm unsure when it came into effect in New South Wales. I know it came into effect last year for Victoria. Inquiries went through the roof, but I guess it's educating the public on what can be built, what's achievable, where their budget sits. So there's a lot of them in the design phase at the moment, delivered a couple of them. I think it is definitely a growing space, but it's something that the public need to be educated on, how the modular process works, and then filtering through from there. So the regulations that have changed, the work is sort of just coming through the actual system now, and we're just starting to build some of these.
Now, before we have a look at the modulars in terms of the way that you're building them, in terms of, mum and dad, they've got a property, they've got a backyard space, and the son or the daughter hasn't been able to get into the housing market. We know of these have been reported on where mum and dad have built a small dwelling off the back of the yard. Have you had those sorts of scenarios come your way?
We have. We've discussed with a lot of different government departments like Kids Undercover and people like that, and also the mums and dads where, that it's just property's just too expensive. And I guess the beauty of modular is you can build it, you can be planning permit exempt under 60 square metres, but then say down the track they really like their house, you can buy a property, a block of land, and pick up your house and take it with you. So it's a very interesting space.
I think prior, if it was like sort of 30 square metres or less, maybe you couldn't do that as much because it was sort of deemed as just that small little sort of granny thing off the back of the property. But because it's 60 square metres, a little bit more substantial, and the whole sort of consenting, yes, you can put that on a block of land afterwards is okay.
Yeah, exactly. The 60 square metres is pretty generous. You can get a nice 2-bedroom home into 60 square metres and have a bit of living space and have a laundry and a bathroom and all you really need. If you go 1 bedroom, it's plenty of space. 30 was always a little bit tight to get everything you needed in there and be self-sufficient with a laundry and so forth.
All right, well, we're talking with James Briggs this morning in Victoria. We'll come back. We'll find out how James puts these together after this.
It's the Real Estate Podcast, talking properties from 6 a.m. every day, from every corner of the Australian real estate market.
The suburb of City Beach and also wider Perth on a national scale are probably playing catch up with the East Coast, whose markets have run and doubled or even tripled in cases over the last 15 years while we've remained stagnant.
I couldn't tell you exact numbers, but it's increased tenfold. I mean, it was just unheard of to see a female agent in the late 90s, really. Yeah, now it's very commonplace. There's plenty of ladies absolutely nailing it.
Someone will come in and say, "Oh, are you Richard's son?" Yes, that's me. And they said, "Oh, how is Dad?" And I said, "Yeah, he's really good." And they said, "Oh, we bought our house off him in 1987. So we get a lot of that, and then it might be them coming out to have a look at the property to buy it for their children.
If you see a bank cut their fixed rates for whatever period they're cutting that for, that would mean to me that they expect that during that time, the variable rates will dip lower than that fixed rate.
Remember, we are not a real estate company. We are 100% all about increasing your awareness and knowledge for buying and selling properties.
And it is a Real Estate Monday after the weekend. We're talking to James about modular buildings. And so, James, 60 square metres, as you were saying just before the break, it's a pretty generous size. You can get a couple of bedrooms. And as I mentioned at the top, Simon Kustamala, he's a person that is really advocating for these large-scale, high-tech factories. It's the way to go, isn't it, in terms of, outputting them far greater than building them on site?
Oh, it definitely is. And a perfect size module is around 60 square metres because your constraints are typically the route that it's going to take from the factory to the site. So mainly the width on the road. So 5 metre wide, 12 metre long is the perfect size module. And you can get everything you need into that.
Yeah. How does it all go? Like, how does it work at your end? So if I was to say, okay, James, I want one of these 60 square metre modules, how long is it going to take you to sort of build a 2-bedroom for me?
So it depends on where you are in the production line. Typically, there's a little bit of a wait to get to the production line, depending on the workflow that we've got going on. But once your module is on the production line, we have 8 working stations. Each module spends 4 days in each working station. So 32 business days later, you'll go from nothing to a completed home.
So what would it take if you're building that on site? 32 days in your factory on site?
32 days and it's ready to transport to site. Yep. The same sort of construction on site. Obviously, you're affected by weather. You're affected by how you can get material in and out. You're affected by neighbours and then noise pollution to neighbours. There's a lot of external factors, whereas in the factory, all of those factors are taken away. We've got plenty of power at our fingertips. We've got elevated working platforms. We've got gantry cranes. We've got forklifts, plenty of power for the welders. There's nothing stopping us. And if we fall behind, we can run an afternoon shift and we can make sure we stay on schedule. And it's in our best interest and everyone's best interest to stay on schedule because there's jobs coming in behind. So it's a moving production line, and your project is important, but also the projects behind are important. So we need to maintain the process and keep up the speed. So if you put in an order, 32 days later, it will be ready.
James, you're ahead of the curve here because you were saying to me off air, you were I think you came out of your apprenticeship, you were saying 2008, and you were a traditional builder, and you saw the light and you decided, hey, this is the space that I want to be in.
I actually had a number of things converge at one time. I did a trip to China and went to a bunch of factories over there researching it. And I had 23 guys. I was traveling around doing conventional construction and I needed to be everywhere at once. I got my helicopter pilot's license to try and be everywhere at once. And then ultimately it was a fast track to burnout. I burnt out and spent a couple of years in and out of hospital, seven admissions. And I think that process showed me I need to get these jobs that I was traveling around to within walking distance from my desk. That was sort of the process that led me to modular construction, and was forced to in a way, but also at the same time was researching it all. And I just can't believe how far behind Australia are.
Yeah. It's interesting that you talk about the Chinese factories that you went over and had a look at, because just recently over the last 12 months, there's been quite a push online, and you would have seen these pods that they are making, and I'm not sure what the output is, but they look like pretty big factories, and they are exporting around the world, which kind of makes you wonder, why aren't we doing this in Australia?
Yeah, exactly. I think Australian regulation and red tape is pretty vigorous. That's sort of stopped a lot of the import. People do import them from China and so forth, but then they find out they don't meet our standards with the wiring and the watermark on the taps and the like. So I think we're primed to make manufacturing great again in Australia, and you have to be a registered practitioner within the state that you're delivering to. So I think the space is definitely going to grow because our red tape is more stringent than other countries and our design codes are more stringent. We can potentially export from Australia.
Yeah. So how many of these modular buildings are you outputting in a month?
So we're in the process of putting up a new factory. Our current facility, we can't keep up with the volume, but our new factory, which will be operational by Q1 next year, in the first year, we'll be set up to do 196 modules per annum.
Wow. You can't do that on site, and you can't chase all of those different addresses. As you say, it's one way to really burn yourself out. Well, it certainly sounds, James, like you have got a very busy 12 months ahead.
Yeah, we definitely do. I think the opportunity's there, and we're very, very excited to make it happen. And we've got a business partner on board as of today and for next financial year, and we've got the approvals, and it's all systems go.
Well, great to catch up with you this morning and find out a little bit about you and what you are doing at your end and filling in some of the blanks for people. So really appreciate that. And thank you for coming on to the Real Estate Breakfast this morning.
Thanks very much. It was a pleasure to be here.
Don't navigate the real estate market alone. Let us help guide you in the world of real estate every day. Make better informed decisions with the latest news and insights. We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.